Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Soul Focus. This is my very special guest, Paula Darch. How are you going today?
Good, thank you. How's everybody?
They're good. I hope you're good. Smile anyway, people, and act as if you're good. Oh yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I got a bit cold in Adelaide today. I got the heater on. You look like you're rugged up. Nice and warm.
I have got my hoodie on, and I've got a heat bag and a heat blanket wrapped around me. So yes, it's
nice.
nice.
Ugg boots. I
And
got
Ugg
boots on.
boots. Yes, definitely.
Artificial Ugg boots. No, it all had to for me to have them. They're all synthetic. G'day, Mandy. Paula, tell us what you do.
So what do I do? In a nutshell, I work with beautiful children on the autism spectrum and also trauma, ADD, ADHD, OCD, combination of like all of that wonderful beings that they are, which I'll go into and explain a little bit later. I also work with women and men, mainly women, working with emotional trauma and womb healing as well. So as a actual practitioner, I am trained in a lot of different modalities. But what I really concentrate on is really supporting all of my clients emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So, yeah.
How did you find your way into spirituality? Where did it all start for you?
So my son, actually, I have three beautiful boys. I have a son that is about to turn 25, and I guess I had always been spiritual, but I didn't actually understand it. And so my grandfather, which is a beautiful spirit guide of mine now, he was a psychic medium, but he wasn't allowed to be a medium here in South Australia. He was forbidden by family. And so he used to say stuff all the time. And I was really, really close to him. And I really had this beautiful connection with my granddad. And I just thought, well, it's just the connection that I've got with him. When he passed away, I really, really struggled with his death. And when I was around, he passed away when I was about, I think, 16, 17.
Okay.
When I was 19 years old, he actually came to me in a dream. And I actually saw him at my front door of my parents' house. I'd already moved out by this time. And he actually came to my parents' house in his car that he bought just before he died. And I answered the door, and it was my grandfather. And he just kept saying to me, Paula, I love you, but it's time that you let me go. I need for you to let me go. I love you. I love you. I love you. And then he faded out. And from that moment forward, I could smell his tobacco everywhere. And didn't, I would be doing the dishes and I could smell tobacco. I'd be walking by myself and I could smell tobacco. And
it's tripped out, isn't it?
It is. It really
when you get that
out.
smell.
Yeah, and it's like when it's really distinctive. Like, he had rollies, so he used to make his own cigarettes. He never bought a cigarette packet. So it was that distinct smell that I remembered to my granddad.
Yep.
And that sort of, going back now, I get that. But it was really my son. My son was seeing spirit like he was seeing a human being. And I was like, how do I help this child? And so I started going to meditation groups, spiritual church in Northfield. And then my world just opened up to all of these spiritual people being around me. It was quite ironic, actually. And as I was meditating and going to these groups, I discovered that I could see too. But he can still see. He's turning 25. And he can see a spirit as if he's standing in front of him. Whereas for me, I can see the spirit in my third eye. So we see very, very differently. So I thought that I was going to these places to help him to understand it, where it actually woke everything up in me. And I was told so many times that, by the leader of this church and also my teacher, she kept saying to the minister, this is a special one. This is a special one. And I'm just like, whatever, man. Like, didn't believe anyone. And it then like linked back to my son was about 4 years old. So this is even before he started coming out and saying things. And I had our first reading at Elizabeth Spiritualist Church because I had gone through quite a bit of trauma with my son, just wanted some guidance.
Yep.
And I was telling this group of friends about the reading. And there was a lady there that was actually doing this party. It was a party plan thing. And she said to me, can I ask why you went and had a reading? I said, it's always just, I've just always been curious about it. And she looked at me in front of this whole group of people and went, you are the most spiritual, clairvoyant psychic I've ever seen in my life. I laughed at her. I literally laughed at her, and I told her to go F off and told her not to be so stupid. I have always energetically apologized for that.
Yep.
Because, years later, here's me, now doing it as a job full time. Like, yeah. So it's quite ironic, really.
And so, how did your life start to change when you started finding these things out? How did it affect your general life?
Everything. Like, what I noticed in the beginning was all of my friends that were my friends I guess I was classifying myself as a spiritual person in a closet. I didn't really, and I think it was because my grandfather, and because I knew that my grandfather was a psychic, but it was hidden to be that psychic. I was really scared to come out to my family or anything like that for ages.
Yep.
But the first thing I noticed was I was losing friends. And then as all of that was happening, I was then meeting all these spiritual people in my life. And my life was just going down a whole new avenue of life. And so, grieving for that old, and then discovering all of that new as well. So, yeah. It's a journey.
Sometimes it can be a lonely transition.
It actually really can. And I've now been doing, I've actually been a healer since 2012. And, my journey has just, as we all do, we just grow and we evolve and we ascend and we, and everything. But I will have to say, like, one of the things that I have struggled in this journey is that feeling of loneliness, even though I've got so many spiritual team around me and everything. But yeah, that it's that constant transition of people in your life coming and going because you're moving to a different direction and you're moving to a different frequency. But at the time of that happening, it's like, I'm losing everything. And, for me personally, there was a real sense of abandonment a lot of this journey, which I've had to do a lot of healing work on.
Yeah, because it gets, and especially as you start to grow and you start to develop, even your spiritual friends change, and you sometimes think, look, we're going to be mates forever, and it's just hard when you just stop resonating because you've moved in a different area, and no longer got the connection that you once had. It's it can be quite scary.
It actually, like, I would have to say, Brooke, that it's actually one of the things that I've actually really struggled with in this journey. Just transitioning through, like, friendships and, different, like the different stages of like the ascension and the symptoms and the, everything constantly evolving all the time. And, it can be really harsh and hard on like our beautiful physical bodies and everything. But the more that we work on, unpacking that emotionally and physically, mentally, and spiritually, like on all of those levels, the better that we become. But yeah, my spirit guides like to give me a nice kick up the backside because evidently I don't listen enough.
Yeah, they all say that, don't they? That's it. We'd be running the show if that was the case. If we listen to everything you say, is that what they're telling us?
Yeah. And then when I don't listen, oh my goodness, do I go? I get in big trouble.
I tell people too with your intuition. It says when you're learning your intuition, it'll always stand out strong when you're in the middle of doing something and it's inconvenient. And I said, but if you don't do those inconvenient ones, you will never fully tune into it because they just like it's like they're testing you. Are you listening? Are you listening?
Yeah. They're like I remember a few years ago, I wasn't listening to them or my body, and I fell down. I kept on being told I was doing 6 jobs at the time, wearing too many masks to meet the needs of society and everyone else at the time. And I fell downstairs at work, and I tore all of the muscles tendon in my foot. And so I was on the lounge for a week on crutches because I could not weight bear at all. And kept on getting the message, now you're still, now you have to listen. And I'm like, okay then. Like, I was cross.
Off with Netflix.
Yeah. And once I had actually recovered a little bit, they said to me, it's time for us to go for a drive. And they quite often did this to me a few years ago, and they started doing it again just recently. And it's like, it's time to go for a drive, Paula. And I'm like, where to? They're like, don't need to know where to, Paula. Let's just drive. And so they had me go into the city, and then I parked at the city, and then I had no petrol. Like my tank was literally on empty. And they're like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, I need petrol. And they're like, let's go. And so I'm like, I was in the middle of the city on empty, and we landed up going all the way up into the Adelaide Hills, right up to like, where is it? Basket Range, and all the way around Basket Range, Norton Summit, the whole lot, on an empty tank of fuel. And I was freaking out going, I can't like break down up here because I won't have like, range on my phone.
Pull over. Yeah.
I can't pull over on any of those roads. I've got to pick my son up soon. And they're like, trust us. Please, Paula, just trust us. So I got to an intersection. I said, okay, I'm trusting you. Where do I go? And I got left or right. And I literally just went wherever they wanted me to go. And we went all the way up through the Adelaide Hills. Nice big journey. And I said, right, you better have a bloody petrol station at the bottom of this hill, like a hill, because I was really starting to panic by this time. Because I would have been driving for around about 45 minutes.
Yep.
Anyway, land up coming down this hill, which was Norton Summit. And what was at the bottom of Norton Summit? Petrol station.
Yep.
Got my petrol, then had to go to Marialta, sit at Marialta. There was more messages at Marialta. I had to look up in the trees about the koalas. And there was a kangaroo, and then I had to put my hands in my pocket, and there was like 5 $2 coins, and then there was in the other pocket there was like 6 5-cent coins, and and it was a whole exercise purely just on trust.
Wow.
And now when they say drive, I don't hesitate it. I just go.
It's a great way to help train and listen with the intuition. Because I've done a few things similar. I remember this one time, and I'm on the way somewhere, and it goes turn down. I hear turn down here, and I turn down there, and it goes pull up here, and I was pulling it up and sitting in a park, going, what's going on? And I'm just sitting there going, okay, I'm obviously meant to see something. And then I heard this had a pond with some ducks, and then I heard this. I was sitting there for about 10 minutes, and I heard this classical music in the background coming from afar. And then all these ducks just started getting excited, and they're talking to each other, getting excited, and they all ran up. This lady comes up, this old lady with her windows down with this music blaring, and then she must have worked at some sort of, food shop, because she just came out and put these 2 big buckets of food down, and all these ducks are just, man, they're having a ball. They're just like loving it, and it was just brilliant. It was just brilliant.
Wow.
And it took me there to see it, and you just see the joy. Just to see that joy was just so brilliant.
Yeah. It's quite amazing. When I look back on my journey of where they have got me to go for, like, to help people at certain times and everything, like it just, for me, it really blows my mind. Like, going back a long time ago, this was like right in the beginning of my journey. I hadn't really sort of come out that I was, a medium and I could communicate with deceased loved ones and what have you. And what had happened was my husband went to buy Cross Lotto. So he went to get $20 out of the teller, and $500 spat out. And so he came home, and yep, fair enough, it said $20, but $500 had come out of our bank account. And so I had to go to the bank the next day because mortgage was coming out. The money had to be in the bank for mortgage. So I'm sitting at the bank talking to this lady, and I can hear these messages saying, like, this message going, tell her I play with her hair. Tell her I play with her hair. And I'm sitting there, and mind you, I had never done a reading or done this type of work out in public before. And I just had this spirit just going and going and going. And in the end, like this, I was just making up all of these questions to ask this lady. And she was like, is there anything else that I can help you with today? Because she was getting frustrated, because I didn't know how to approach this woman and go, hey, is someone playing with your hair, by the way? Like, and in the end, I just said to her, look, I need to say something to you. You can throw me out. I don't care. I have to say it. Do you feel like somebody's playing with your hair? She turned around and she's like looking around her going, is there someone here? Is there someone here? And I'm like, yeah, there is. And I sat there, I sat back down with her, and I just started, as soon as she had acknowledged that, yes, she, feels someone playing with her hair sometimes, the communication between this female spirit and this lady just then went bleh. And I was just telling her all of this stuff, and like, she's sitting there and she did something on her computer and then turned the computer around and she said, is this who you're talking to? And I said, and I got a confirmation of yes. And she said, this is my daughter. She committed suicide 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, your daughter needed for me to speak to you today because she spat $500 out of my bank account so I could come and see you today. And this is where I go, how cool are they? Like, like, how cool a spirit that they can literally spit $500 out of a bank account to make someone go and speak to someone the next day.
Yeah. And why was it only 500?
Yeah.
$2,000 would have been nice.
I was going to say, it would have been nice if, like, it was $500 that didn't come out of our bank account that we could have kept. That's okay. Right. I'm sure I got rewarded in other ways.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell us about the Heart Centre.
So the Heart Centre Academy of Healing started in 2019 in Mawson Lakes. So again, this is very spirit-led. It was quite ironic. So I had Dynamics Mind and Body Connection for probably about 5 years. since I had done my my coaching certificates, hypno and everything like that.
Yep.
And then during those 5 years, I kept on being told that you'll have a business name change, and it's called the Heart Centre Academy of Healing, and it will be a healing centre. And I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. And then at the end of 2019, August of 2019, right in the middle of COVID, I keep on getting the words, you need to branch out, you need to go rent a space, you need to, like, you know, leave home, because I was working from this room that we're actually in now. And I'd been working at home in my business since 2012. And they said, you know, you're too big now, you need to leave, and everything. And for me, it was, do I really? Like, I'm comfortable here. Like, I don't have to pay rent, or I don't have to, like, you know, I was comfortable in my little bubble.
Yep.
But I just kept on getting the awareness, no, now's the time. And so I, at the time, was looking with another person, and we found the shop that was where I was in 2019, which then became the Heart Centre Academy of Healing. And I loved it. I just, you know, sort of opening up my own healing centre was just a dream. I had seen my healing centre and everything for so many years. So actually having it in reality and having it like tangible and having the shop and everything was just amazing, magnificent. And I really, really loved it. The end of last year, I got the awareness by my spiritual team that I needed to move to more of like a, because the Heart Centre Academy, the actual shop was very open. It was just a massive, great big open shop with a healing room out the back. And I had always seen my healing academy in the Adelaide Hills as a home, like a, you know, just a beautiful, and I still see it. I will get there one day. This beautiful old rustic home. And so I kept getting the awareness with all of the mandates that were changing last year for businesses and shops and everything like that. I was mandated that I had to make a decision whether I was going to be a fully vaxxed centre or not. And I didn't want that. So I asked Spirit, well, where am I going to go? And they just said, look, speak to your landlord, which I'll tell you about my landlord in a second.
Yep.
Luckily, my landlord not only owns the shop fronts, but he also owns the houses upstairs. So where the actual the academy is, there's all shops down the bottom and then houses up the top.
Yep.
And I contacted, well, my landlord and I have ESP. And so the next day he came in and I said, hey, Tony, you got any houses for like rent right now? And he goes, oh, not any of my like single standing ones, Paula. He goes, but upstairs free as of next year. And I'm like, it's mine. So I'm now upstairs from where I was in a 3-bedroom house. And like, it's so comforting and it feels safe. I mean, you've been there, Brooke. You've been to the academy.
Access.
And everything like that. Like, it's just got that really warm, comforting, safe feel for my clients, which is, you know, what I really wanted for them. So yeah.
Brilliant. So you mainly work with children, don't you?
No, I work with adults and children.
Yep. Adults and children.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you tell us
so
about what you do?
Sorry.
With them? Yeah. Sorry.
It's lagging.
Oh, okay. It's just the internet.
So what I do with the children is, as I said before, like my passion is to work with autism. So I don't look at autism as autism. I look at them as transcendental beings. Transcendental being meaning that they are a galactic being in a human body. Yep. And so the reason why we've got the name autism is because that's what society has given them a label of. But when I work with my beautiful transcendental beings, I work with them on the frequency that they're actually at. So as we are very aware, like we are energy and we are frequency. And, you know, a lot of society is still that 3D frequency. And that's what, you know, the body that most of us were born into. These beautiful beings haven't been born into, like, their body is that, but their frequency's not. So some of the kids that I'm working with are like 13 plus frequency bodies and souls. And so what's happening with these beautiful beings is that the reason why they have so many challenges is because they're in a skin that doesn't match their frequency. So that's the reason why they have sensory. That's the reason why they, you know, quite often have speech. So the reason why they have speech issues is quite often because they're telepathic. They don't need to speak human language. They speak telepathically. So it's just such a variation of who we are and what we are, but the definition of what we've been told we are meant to be.
Yeah.
And so what lands up happening is that these beautiful beings land up having an identity crisis, and then they go into trauma. And so I land up... Sorry?
So how does that sort of take part?
So their soul body is trying to actually identify as what everybody is telling them that they're meant to be, but they know internally they're not.
Okay.
So they go through like a crisis, which leads to a trauma response.
Yeah.
So which is fight, flight, freeze.
So, so what sort of work do you do? What sort of work do you do with these kids? How do you work with them to?
So
what can you do with that?
Yeah. So what I do with the younger ones, I've got a beautiful room set up, which is a sensory room. And so we sit in the sensory room and we play with toys. We play like one of my kids today, we were doing science experiments together because that's what he loves and enjoys. One of my other autistic kids, she loves Japanese. She loves cooking. So we're just about to start Japanese cooking together. So for the older ones, it's more like targeted for their, like, you know, their needs, and like not so much their needs, but what their passions are. So the young one that I worked with, the one that I worked with today, he loves science. So we've started working with, like, you know, doing science experiments. While we're doing that, I'm sending lots of healing to them. So it's like bringing them down. So one of the biggest things that these beautiful beings really struggle with, and that is being grounded in their physical body. Because they're such high frequency beings, they really struggle to grow.
I guess that's why they're off.
Textured things.
Yep.
Yeah, so having textured things. So we play with slime and kinetic sand and gloop to like bring them back to their sensory needs.
Okay, because they, I've heard from other people that they can have their senses can be like, you know, heightened in a lot of areas. They can be quite overwhelming for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sound, taste. The high percentage of autistic beings that have sensory to taste is massive. The food intolerances and a lot of them. I've got one autistic boy that I've been working with now since he was 4.5. He's now 15. He only eats brown food.
Okay. So no chili anchovy pizza. That's just too much, isn't it?
He will, like, he loves cooking. So when I was working with him one-on-one every week for like 5 years, we did cooking together every week. So that was bringing in the sensory, but it was bringing in cooking. And still to this day, like I see him probably about every 6 months now. But he does cooking lessons every week and has done for probably about 4 years.
Yep.
That's his passion. That's what he loves. But he doesn't eat the food. He cooks it.
Oh, doesn't like his own cooking. Doesn't sound like much fun.
He won't. Like, it depends on what it is. But most times out of 10, he will cook it, but he won't eat it.
Okay. Does he taste it while he's eating it?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. But depends on what they're cooking.
Is he a good cook?
He is a really good cook.
Oh, nice. That's right then. Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah. I'll eat it. Just send it this way.
Yeah. Well, Mum and Dad get a good feed, like when he goes to cooking lessons, because they eat the food.
Yep. So with working with these kids, are you just so you're showing them how to integrate?
Yeah. So it's showing them how to integrate. It's showing them emotional regulation. So we do a lot of like emotional work as well. So for the younger ones, I teach them how to release their emotions through like different activities and techniques and things like that. And for the older ones, then we do like more language based, if that's what like they're actually okay with. One of the things that they absolutely like, you would probably agree to this. I have done like access bars, and since I've done access bars, I do like different variations of like the bars and the healing on these kids, or I'll do like the access bars consciousness statements, like for the older kids. And the amount of like the change in the frequency and the change in like what's happening in their world is huge. So and for the younger ones, it's really about like sitting down and playing with them. And while I'm playing with them, I'm doing lots of like sending that healing to them to actually bring their frequency to where it needs to be, grounding them. If there's emotions in their bodies, like, you know, sort of doing the healing work to like pull that out and, you know, make their like, you know, support their body to like, you know, be in flow.
So what do you think the purpose is of them having that extended frequency?
Because they're the ones that are here to actually bring the frequency to Earth. They're the change makers.
So they're the ones,
Yeah.
They're the antennas.
Yeah, basically. Like, so as we know it, like, you know, sort of the 3D world is dying. You know, we're very much moved into 4D and 5D. Like, you know, sort of I've just been reading a lot just recently, like pretty much today, that this week we've moved into that 5D Earth. And all of these beings that have come into Earth are helping to raise that frequency without even knowing that they're actually doing it.
Okay.
So what I'm here to do for them is to actually support them and their bodies while they're doing the work that they don't even know they're really doing.
That's fascinating. I've got one question for you. What is the aim of your work? Does it assist them to remember themselves or their origins? Okay.
So the aim of their work is to support them to be living in the physical body that they've actually been given for this lifetime. Yep. So it's to actually support them in whatever their needs are, but also to assist them. It's not so much of like helping them to like remember their origin, because these kids quite often, like, you know, if I was to turn around to these kids and go, you're a galactic being, they're going to go, whoa. You know, they're already freaked out by living in this Earth.
Have you tried that? What if one turned around and said, yeah, I know?
Well, it's actually funny you say that, because I had a young boy going back probably about, it would have been about 4 or 5 years ago. I had this young boy come and see me. He was being expelled from every school that he went to. Yep. And Mum was literally at her wit's end. She's like, oh my God, what else am I meant to do? And so she found me. And I had this beautiful young boy on my bed, and he's sitting there and he looks at me and he goes, "You get me, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I explained to Mum that he was living in the frequency of the new earth. So he could see the new earth. And so he was like going to school going, "You're all stupid. You're all idiots. What you're trying to teach me is a load of BS because I don't need that." Right?
Damn straight.
But he was so out there with his knowledge of New Earth. It was incredible. Like, he blew my mind in what he could actually tell me about New Earth, and everything. And he's like, "I'm creating this, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and blah, 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 blah." And this mum sat there and went, "He's never said this before." And I'm like, "Because he's never felt safe to." You know, if nobody gives these kids a safe place to just go blah, and this is what I can see and this is what I can feel and blah, 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 are they going to turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, Mum, I can see an alien over there. Mum, I can see this, I can see that." How many children, how many lifetimes have we had where we've been shut down?
Yep.
So do we then say anything? You know, I didn't say anything until I went, "Stuff you all, I'm saying it anyway. I don't care." But
I'm curious. I don't know how to say this without saying it. Does it, like the kids that have had the, has that affected them?
Yes.
How does that affect them?
I've only had one that's had the new, what you're talking about. And it's affected the way she receives the healing.
So she's still a blocker, or just dulls it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
What's the rest of her like, as far as, like, you know, the other dimensions?
I would have to say that she struggles a fair bit, and I've noticed from like more adults, because there's more adults that have had it than what children have. I've noticed since doing healing on adults that have got it, the difference in their energetic field and the difference in them receiving as well.
Okay.
It definitely acts as a bit of a blocker.
A blocker.
Yep.
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 Oh, that's
it's very interesting because you can actually feel and know who's had it and who hasn't.
Yep. Just by the strength of their field.
Yep. Yep. And what's going on for them since they've had it.
So, do you also work with adults that have? Is it just is it just kids that you work with autism?
No, so I work with adults as well. So I work with all genders. You know, everybody.
Just make sure.
All genders. When I say all genders, because there is just so much gender diversity out there now. So I don't like to say that I work with men and women, because that would be a bit of a kick in the guts to some of my clients. I'm gender diverse, so that basically means that the range of people I see is prenatal, so in the womb, right up to death.
Yep.
So I've helped people to cross over and to their next life. And what have you as well. I've assisted that beautiful transition, which has been an absolute gift. So predominantly, I would say I have more female clients than male clients. I don't know why, but I just do. I do have male clients, but I do see a lot more women than what I do see men. My retreats are predominantly women based. They are women empowerment retreats. But most of the healing side of things with women is womb healing, inner child healing, and trauma healing. So sexual abuse. Yep. So that's predominantly, and I see adults on the spectrum as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've trained in you use a mode of modalities to heal that, not just one specific thing.
Yeah, I have, so, going back in 2012, 2013, I started my healing journey. I was already energetically healing before I was officially trained, as they call it, for quite a few years. Feeling energy, knowing where to put my hands on people's body, knowing what I needed to say and do. And everything, but certificate wise, I've got a lot of variations: Reiki, Seishim, angel healing, NLP masters, hypnotherapy, different forms of coaching, Seishim. And I have actually written and taught 3 healing modalities of my own. The golden thread of light, the healing tree activation, and I've taught my Lamorian seed of light activation for the first time on the weekend. So yeah, so I've written 3 healing modalities as well, and I've taught all of them. So yeah, when my clients come in, I have no expectation. I just do what the body asks me to do. So sometimes, I'm working on the body and I'm putting pressure on certain areas of their feet or their hands or their face or their head, or, I haven't been trained in that. No one's taught me how to do that. It's just, I much prefer calling myself an intuitive healer than what I do all the labels. Because I go in and say and do whatever my client needs on the day. And every day I see my clients, whether it be kids, whether it be adults, every single healing's so different. So yeah, I just allow spirit to channel through me. I allow for my guides to come through, their guides to come through, and I just know and trust that whatever needs to be done gets done as well. So
you've like you said, your courses, you've developed some healing techniques that you've trained people in.
Yeah. So so the first course that I wrote was the Healing Tree of Life. It is an activation. It's a 4-step healing process. So for healers that want to take their healing to another level, this is a form of spoken language, as well as taking them through a hypnotic journey, as well as a hands-on healing. So it's a 4-step process. It's an interview to find out what the root cause of their problems are, or the problem that they've got an issue with right now. The second process is a process called the tree, the healing tree, where they actually go and meet their tree of life. And we actually meet the tree, go through the tree, and that's where we find whatever's in there. So whether it's an emotion, whether it's a belief or a decision, whatever it is within their soul core, we meet that and we find out what they need to know and learn in that stage. And then once we've found out what they need to know and learn, we then use all of that knowledge and wisdom to change it over to healthy choices. What do you now choose for your life? What do you choose to create for your life with all of that lesson and learning? The third process is an actual hands-on healing, where we're working right inside the cellular level and right down to the DNA level. And then the fourth one is taking all of their lessons and learnings, all of their new healthy choices, and then actually putting them into a drop timeline to create the new reality of what they're now choosing for themselves. So that's a 4-step process. The other one is the golden thread of light. That was given to me quite a number of years ago now by the goddess Isis and the star Sirius, so the planet Sirius, and the Merkaba. So we work with the star Sirius, we work with goddess Isis, we work with the Merkaba energy, and we work with a whole heap of pictures, ideograms, and we go through the chakra system, and we actually release and reveal, let go of all of the golden threads that were keeping us stuck and stagnant from all lifetimes. And then Isis actually pulls it all out and gets rid of it. And then again, we make healthy new choices. And at the end of that process, we actually see ourselves as the lighthouse, and we beam out the new choices, the new decisions, and create that, that new us. And then the Lamorian seed of light, the seed of light activation, which I taught for the first time on Sunday, yesterday, that is with the Lamorians. And so that is a healing modality that activates the seed of knowledge that has been locked deep within each chakra. And so that goes through healing, goes through crystal work, it goes through activations, and boy, oh boy, is that a really deep healing. We had a rebirth yesterday. We had light language come out. Oh, it was huge. It was great. So yeah, each one of those courses are courses that have been given to me, downloaded to me by Spirit, by Goddess Isis, by the Lamorians. And the Healing Tree of Life is the one that I formed through my own practice. And I've written it as a modality as well.
So if if someone wanted to get some work done, what would they be coming to you for?
They would be coming for usually most of my clients come because they've got anxiety, depression. A lot of them have got trauma. So we go through releasing the anxiety, the depression, the trauma through different, and I use all of my healings for depending on what they need and everything like that is depending on what practice and what process that I'll do each and every day. So, one person I might do the Healing Tree of Life, another person I might, just do a full chakra balance. It really depends on what they need. One of the things that I've been doing a lot of in the last probably 2 years, and that is soul retrieval from trauma. Because when somebody goes through a significant trauma, their soul, a part of their soul will actually leave their body in that time. And it stays in that time and it stays stuck in that trauma. And so what I've been doing over the last couple of years is actually recovering and realigning and supporting that person through a soul retrieval, inner child, things like that. So, yeah, it's so variant of what I do.
Is all your work done in person, or do you do online work?
Do both. Yeah, I do both. Most of it I like to do in person. I'm just that's the type of person that I am. I like to do in-person healings, but I have had people that I've seen people in America, and so of course you do all of that online on this beautiful thing called the website.
It seems to be the way at the moment, doesn't it? A lot of stuff's done online.
And I probably need to advertise more that I do online, because it's not something that I guess I do advertise.
It's like a second job.
Yeah, it is.
You're doing all the media.
Yes. Something that I don't particularly enjoy. I like to get my hands in with my clients, not all of the back end stuff.
So if you could go back in time to when you first started waking up and started going on the spiritual journey, what advice would you give yourself?
The biggest advice that I would give to myself would be to trust myself more, to trust my intuition, to trust myself more, because throughout the journey, I've gone through, as we all do, a lot of trauma with other, like, practitioners, with other spiritual people. And it's all because I didn't listen to myself and I didn't listen to my own gut. I was going with trusting that this person or these people would be, who they said they were, and finding through this journey that a lot of people are not who they say they are.
So, without obviously not naming names or pointing the bone at anyone, so what sort of things happen?
I think more than anything, like, one of the things that I found in the spiritual community, and that is that there is a lot of jealousy. And so there's a lot of psychic attack because of the jealousy.
Yeah. So inadvertently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they like to take you down, they try and take you down to the stage that you become incapacitated. And so I would go back and say to myself, learn how to protect yourself more. Do not trust everybody. And most importantly, listen to your own intuition, foremost, and 100%, 100% more than what I have in the last however many years. Yeah.
I found that myself, is there's too many people in competition. It's like, why are we in competition with each other? We should be just all helping everyone to raise the world,
We're here to raise the frequency of the planet and to love and share and be supporting each other. That is, and for me, that's what I promote. That's who I am. And, I think because of just being that open-hearted and kind and wanting to build a community, and all that sort of stuff, because you kind of like, I wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit too much, so I need to. Yeah.
That's okay. Just another lesson coming, You must show you one way or another.
Yeah. And look, I know that I've had to go through all of these experiences. Like as much as what they were all pretty hard and harsh, like I wouldn't go back and change them now because they are my lessons. I had to go through all of those lessons to actually be where I am again today.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that I've learnt my lessons now and I don't have to recreate them.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. So don't be a slow learner, people. Do the work. Otherwise
you will get slammed on your ass.
Again and again and again.
And again. Until you learn. And I must be a really slow freaking learner.
Well, it feels like that some days, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I can laugh about it now.
Sorry?
At least I can laugh about it now.
Oh, yeah. But there's always next week.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's okay. After a while, it just gets part of the norm. But you learn that. Well, you better get off your butt and deal with it as soon as possible, and it will make things a hell of a lot easier to make sure that you work it out and heal it and in the patterns.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if someone, where's the best place to get hold of you if someone wants to get hold of you?
The Heart Center Academy Facebook page is the predominant one that I post on. I do have a website, but I don't, as I said before, like it's, that sort of stuff is not my passion. So, I do it when I get to it.
But sort of partial traffic. Yeah.
So I post everything on Facebook first. So all of my events are in my event section. So the Healing Tree of Life and the Golden Thread of Light are coming up in August. They're two that are booked in for August. For appointments and everything, there is a booking on the top of the Heart Centre Academy of Healing Facebook page, so you can book through there. If clients have if people have NDIS funding and they are self-managed or plan managed, they can also come and see me through their plan.
Yep.
Yeah, through their funding.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so,
great.
Before we go, is there anything else you want to add? A story?
I probably just want to touch on the a little thing that is also very passionate about. The autism has also been misdiagnosed. So there are a lot of people that have, a lot of kids especially, there are a lot of kids that are being diagnosed over, probably I'm going to say the last 8 years, if not longer, with autism. And it's actually not autism, it's PTSD. So there are so many children that are suffering from trauma and a response to trauma and the actual symptoms are mimicking as a autistic response. And so what I want people to know is that if they've got a diagnosis for their child and they think that it actually really doesn't match that, come and have a chat with me, because my son was diagnosed, he was actually diagnosed with PTSD, which he did have, but he also had autism. And 25 years ago, well, say 23 years ago, they didn't diagnose him with autism. So it was actually, for us, it was the flip. He was diagnosed as a teenager with, he was diagnosed at the age of 5 with ADD, ADHD, ODD, and then a teenager he was diagnosed with conduct disorder, and then depression and PTSD. But one of the things that my son was really struggling with as a spiritual being was autism.
Yep.
At the time, he didn't get any funding, so he didn't get the support that he needed at the time. So, sort of, I have worked and I've been a mum that has a child with PTSD, so I know the signs and symptoms. And I just see so many kids today that are just being diagnosed with all of these things and medicated, and they're not actually being treated by in the right way.
No. Yeah, we can't just throw pills at someone. That doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's
and
unfortunate.
It's really sad. Because, I'm seeing so many kids being put on like all of these different medications, and it's not what they need. They actually really need trauma support. And the more that they get the trauma support, the more that they will actually integrate and, be who they are meant to be here in this world without the diagnosis.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. And people, if you want to get in contact with Paula, all her links are in the show notes. And your page is the Heart Centre Academy of Healing?
Yes.
You see, it's just behind her, just written there. Oh, way, opposite way. Well, thank you very much. It's been great having you on the show, and have a lovely night.
Lovely.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thanks, Paula. See you later, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.